Thank you, Sims. Now, as he said, award-winning novelist Fred Khumalo has recently released his first pure young adult novel titled Crossing the River. Well, the book follows the journey of 15-year-old Nozizwe and her family while on the run from the Zimbabwean farm where her family lives and works. Their expedition is led by Nozizwe's aunt, who guides them to cross a river in Limpopo. Now, to tell us more about this and the interesting events that unfold thereafter, we're joined in studio by the book's author, Fred Khumalo. Fred, such good to see you. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much, Lodo.
I'm excited about this one. I mean, tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this book and the events leading to this book.
Well, in my capacity as a journalist, I covered the uprisings in Zimbabwe, 2001, 2002, the land grabs and so on. And I saw the suffering of the people, events which inspired the deluge, the exodus from Zimbabwe into South Africa. So I realized this character, Nozizwe, as this young lady, young girl, coming into South Africa for reasons that I've just explained, to flee the violence and the devastation that was being visited upon black people in Zimbabwe by fellow black people, the so-called war veterans. And of course, obviously, what that leads to is, what do Zimbabwean people do in South Africa? What do they experience? You know, so the book is about that. Speaking
about what people do experience, in the book as well, you touch on Nomfundo, Nozizwe's sister, who gets injured by a crocodile. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, obviously, it's written, the book is written as an adventure story, so that it's relatable to younger people, younger readers. The main character, the protagonist, is 14 years of age, and she's got an older sister, Nomfundo. So they are crossing the river Limpopo, from Zimbabwe into South Africa, and I wanted to dramatize it, to create this graphic sense, the visceral sense of what happens when you cross a river into another country, into another territory. So that is what we see in the opening chapter of the book.
You also throw in the human trafficking.
Yes, there's human trafficking, there's body, human trafficking mainly, and human invasion, where they harvest organs, human organs, from live people, because these are the problems, the issues that the country, the subcontinent of Africa is faced with at the moment. Why the xenophobia? Where does it come from? Why the sudden immigration? It's not sudden, it's been there for many years. It's just that we notice it now because we, as South Africans, are under pressure economically and otherwise. So we suddenly think these people are taking over the country. They've been here forever. So the book is about the celebration of our shared humanity.
Speaking of humanity, what do you then suggest, or what do you think then the solution is to the problem?
Well, the problem is to listen to the other side, because as the world changes, as the world evolves, we, as South Africans, will have to go to other climes to find solutions to our problems, because we don't exist in a vacuum. And what does that mean? Speaking and listening to each other.
Another thing as well, also in the book, is that how Nozizwe then, escapes and then is now Sizwe. She has to pretend to be a boy who sees one. Tell us a little bit about that too.
You see, Nozizwe realizes very early in the story, very early in her life, that as a young woman growing up in a violent society, and this speaks to gender-based violence, that you have to protect yourself. You have to find ways you have to be ingenious to find ways how to navigate yourself around a life that is militating against you as a woman, a young woman, a girl. So she turns the rules, she turns the whole plot around to say, you know what, to survive here, I must be a boy, I must be a man. So she masquerades as a man, and that saves her life. Crossing the river and manifesting into South African life and trying to be a boy in South Africa, which has got its own problems, but at least she survives. She doesn't get ravished as a girl, as a woman.
I also want to touch on the relationship between her and Nomfundo, because, you know, even after she passes on, she still plays a pivotal role in her life. Nomfundo
is the older sister in the story. And Nomfundo plays, as you correctly point out, a pivotal role in young Nozizwe's life, in the sense that she's the older girl, and therefore the guide. And when she dies, when they are crossing the river, her memory sticks with Nozizwe forever, so that whenever Nozizwe is in trouble, she gets visited by images, imagined or real, of her older sister, Nomfundo.
I want to talk about this being your first pure young adult novel. Speak to us about that process and the transition for you personally as a writer.
Yes, I've written so many books, but many of my books have been about adult issues and problems, and the perspective, the viewpoint or the point of view to my many books have been from the adult gaze. Now I'm saying to myself, look, this problem about xenophobia, racism, migration is not an adult problem. It's about kids. How does it impact, whichever way you look at it, on young people? So there I set myself a challenge as a writer to say, let me get into the headspace of this young lady, this young woman, and how she navigates a life, crossing the river physically and figuratively as well. Because the river is about how to think differently, how to grapple with your demons psychologically, emotionally, and otherwise. So, yes, I had to occupy, as a writer, occupy the headspace of this 14-year-old rural girl, being a 50-something old black man who didn't live in rural areas. I'm an urban person. I'm from the Ekase township and so on. But I had to set myself this challenge to say, okay, how do you tell this story properly?
All right. Fred Khumalo, thank you so much for talking to us. Award-winning novelist Fred Khumalo, and we're just discussing his new novel, a youth fiction read titled Crossing the River.